Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, the numbers of those willing to serve in the military are now down over 30%. The military's sole purpose is to provide for the defense of our great nation. Our military's focus should be the protection of the American people and our freedoms, not liberals' feelings. Therefore, my amendment would eliminate any offices of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the armed forces and in the DOD. We should focus on diversity of ideas and opinions, not races and genders. DEI programs tend to be ineffective and cost the taxpayers more money, and it's been a very real detriment to our recruitment of our military. In short order, a woke military is a weak military. Woke ideology undermines military readiness in various ways. It undermines the cohesiveness by emphasizing differences based on race, ethnicity, and sex. It undermines leadership authority by introducing questions about whether a promotion is based on merit or quota requirements. It leads to military personnel serving in specialties and areas for which they are not qualified, nor are they ready. And it takes time and resources away from training activities and weapons development that contribute to readiness. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Virginia rise?
I rise to claim the time in opposition to this amendment.
The gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes.
And I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from Alabama, member of the Armed Services Committee, Ms. Sewell.
The gentlelady from Alabama is recognized for 2 minutes.
As a proud member of the House Armed Services Committee, I take seriously my responsibility to ensure that our service members get the support they need to keep our nation safe. But once again, Republicans are pushing poison pill amendments into our bipartisan defense bill, focusing more on culture wars and division than on our national security. This radical amendment would eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion offices at the Department of Defense and all personnel in those offices. I shouldn't have to remind my Republican colleagues, diversity is our strength as a nation. Inclusion is proven to be beneficial for military effectiveness, military readiness, and ultimately our national security. Yet my colleagues continue to fight our military leadership as they work to strengthen our armed forces. In the midst of our military recruitment shortfalls, Republicans are focused on the wrong thing. They're busy telling our service members and potential recruits that Congress does not value their background or lived experiences than recruiting the best and brightest to defend our country. This is not only harmful, but it's also hurtful. Hurtful that our military recruitment, preparedness, and cohesiveness is at jeopardy and at stake. Our national security and our national defense deserves better. Again this year, I'm disappointed that we are considering amendments that poison legislation which would otherwise be bipartisan. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment, and let's get back to the business of being truly bipartisan when it comes to our National Defense Authorization Act. Thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves.
I reserve.
Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my friend across the aisle. We shouldn't even be dealing with this, to be honest with you. The fact that money is going to fund this, if you take a car to a mechanic, you don't go to politicians to find out what's wrong with your car. You go to the mechanic. I'm in the real estate business. We build houses. If I have a trouble with a house, I go to my carpenters. I would advise my friends from the other side of the aisle that last year, 160 retired flag officers wrote a letter to the Armed Services Committee, Chairman Rogers, about the dangers of DEI and their opposition to it in the military. 160, and I'm sure it would be far more than this, if you talk to the people that are serving, will point out why this is so detrimental. The officers wrote this: "We respectfully request that Congress take legislative action to remove all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from the DOD. Secondly, our military must be laser focused on one mission: readiness undiminished by culture war engulfing our country. Thirdly, the domestic cultural threat has an innocuous name of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but in reality, DEI is dividing. It's not uniting our military service nor our society. DEI principles derive from critical race theory, which is rooted in cultural Marxism, where people are grouped into identity classes, typically by race, labeled as oppressed or oppressors and victims, and pitted against each other. Under the guise of DEI, some people are selected for career-enhancing opportunities and advancement based on preferences given to identity group, based on race, gender, ethnic backgrounds, sexual orientation. It's unbelievable we're even talking about this or funding it. I reserve.
Reserves. The gentlelady from Virginia is recognized.
I yield 1 minute to Mr. Smith of Washington.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I do talk to people in the military all the time, and our military is doing just fine. Now, there will always be people who are opposed to greater inclusion. We have seen this throughout the military in a wide variety of areas. Way back when, it was opposition to black people serving in the military. Then there was a lot of opposition to gay people serving in the military. And every single time, you had some people in the military saying, this is going to destroy us. Unit cohesion will fall apart. We can't possibly treat people fairly and function. And they've all been proven wrong every single time. The people I talk to in the military say things are going just fine, that they are, in fact, being more inclusive, and the military is as strong as it has ever been. It is completely wrong for a right-wing political agenda to denigrate our military to try to make the point that there's some kind of excessive wokeism going on. That is not what the overwhelming majority of people in the military are telling me and others. What they are saying is that inclusion does matter. People need to be treated fairly. And the idea that if the military goes like this and says, we don't see color, we don't see gender, we don't see any of this, that it'll all just go away and everything will be fine, is absurd. Reasonable diversity, equity, and inclusion works. That's what the military is doing. Please let them continue to do it.